Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this panel. So I'm a Chancellor's Fellow at Edinburgh University working on text mining and natural language processing. And so today's mini presentation is about data access and privacy from that kind of perspective, from like somebody working on text mining and NLP. And I'm leading the Edinburgh Language Technology Group with some lovely colleagues I'm working with. And so the work we do is, as I said, natural language processing. So that's mostly to do with information extraction, geoparsing. We've developed the Edinburgh Geoparser and basically extracting information from different types of text, historical, literary text, electronic healthcare records, and so on. And we've worked on a number of projects, and maybe just to highlight in this context, we've worked on the palimpsest project where we tried to mine literature based in Edinburgh and geolocated basically to be able to let people discover the literary landscape of the city of Edinburgh. And we've also worked on a project called Digitising Scotland, where we mine people's birth, death, and marriage certificates, and to determine people's occupations and also types of deaths, and that sort of stuff. But we are working with a lot of different historical text collections, and so our need for getting access to data is like the first thing in our project, basically. So just want to give some good examples from our perspective of when data sharing was easy for us. So we worked in a project called Trading Consequences, where we tried to mine 19th century historical text on British trade and commodities and where it happened and so on. And so we got some books from Hathi Trust for that, the same for palimpsest, for this literary mining project as well, from this Hathi Trust as well. And they obviously have this API, which is easy to use. And once you have the data, there's a way of syncing it. And so whenever their copyright changes for particular books, then it's very easy for us to update that and be in line with what their kind of latest state of play is. We've managed to get data from the National Library of Scotland through the Data Foundry, which I want to give a big shout out for, because it's so easy to download. It's made available in Metsalto, and once you know that format, it's easy to use, and you can reuse scripts, so that's easy. Then we have had data shared from the Q archive, the letters of correspondence. They were sent to us by email, so that was very easy for us to use. I mean, basically, we were just able to use them straight away. And then we also had discs. Here, there's an image you can see from the British Library sent to us with the 19th century books on them for the palimpsest project. And so, once we have the data, then we are ready to go basically. Less good examples and bad examples from our perspective. I realize this is not for everybody, but from our perspective are instances, for example, where the library is able to share a data collection for research by users, so you can read books in a collection, but we are not able to use that same collection for text mining. So in the past, we had instances where we then had to buy that collection and for an amount, and set a data sharing agreement in place, and that takes a lot of time for us to sort out. So that's something that's more tricky basically, and takes away from our research time. Then another difficult situation is if the individual copyrights are held by different people, and it's impossible to share that collection, because obviously each person that would have to be asked if it's possible to share. That's very laborious, and there's no funding for that sort of stuff. So it's quite tricky to get hold of collections like that for text mining purposes. And of course, also data sets where the copyright is already out, but the digitized versions are owned by some provider, and they want to make money off that. So again, we've spent quite a long time trying to get data sharing agreements in place and having to pay for those things, even though they should really be like accessible given they're out of copyright. But the digitized version isn't. And then sometimes people are just not willing to share something. You want to make money off like contemporary literature. So we had some examples in the Palimpsest project where we tried to include contemporary works of Edinburgh authors, and I won't name anybody, but we not everybody was wanted to for us to like process their books and extract little snippets mentioning locations to be able to include in our interface. So just to sort of summarize, really, I mean, basically we need to come back to the title, no text mining. We need the text to be able to do what we want to do. So if people want to get like any NLP or text mining involved in a project, then that's kind of the basis. We don't really want to spend a lot of time doing data sharing agreements. We realize this is sometimes not avoidable, and we have done it in the past, but ideally we just want to start with the access available already. And also to say, like, we want to do research, interesting research, and like run tools and evaluate methods and not commercialize things. So there's not necessarily a commercial and angle in that. And we also do not really care too much about how people, how providers, release their data and in what format. We just want to get access to it. We can deal with different formats. But if there is a common format, that we already know of, then obviously that saves us time. And the last point is, oh yeah, so the last point is just to say that, sometimes people say we've got the data available, but it's not in electronic text format, and obviously that's then a problem. So we would need at least an image to be able to create OCR text and then to text mine that. And just to finish up, data privacy and data safe data, kind of coming to the safe data and the privacy aspects. We as I mentioned, we work with personal data, and we usually do that in encrypted environments or in data safe havens. So we spend a lot of time being trained for how to do that, and it's super secure. It's very hard to get data in and out, and even our tools into it. Like there's a lot of checking going on when this happens, and to make sure that everything is safe. And it can take quite a long time to actually be able to get access to data. So just finally to say that in some cases, for us, it's actually easier to bring our tools to the data if we cannot access it ourselves. And that obviously has some issues as attached with it, because our tools are not always trained for that external data, but that might be sort of a way forward, to be able to run text mining on data sets that we cannot necessarily get access to. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. So thank you, and I'm happy to take questions as part of the